Listen, this is one of the most important monologues I've ever done because I've lived through this before. You know the old adage, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. You've heard it a million times. It's because it's true. Things are just not bad enough yet for a lot of people to wake up from the Kool-Aid slumber. It's just that simple. That's why Republicans had a decent day this week. I'm not buying the apocalyptic, Chicken Little nonsense, but it could have been a better day. I accept that than we were hoping for. We were hoping for the best. We got an okay day. Yeah, inflation's at record highs. The border's wide open. The fentanyl crisis is wiping out kids across the country. Crime is surging in liberal cities, and the economy's in the gutter. Big government is trying to silence your voice, but apparently all of this bad stuff just ain't bad enough. Unfortunately, folks, this bad stuff in these crises are going to get worse before some voters realize that it's the left's fault. I have lived through this before. The only question is, how much worse is it going to get? I guess the answer is a lot worse, as long as some voters keep believing crap like this.
What in the next 2 years do you intend to do differently?
Nothing, because they're just finding out what we're doing. The more they know about what we're doing, the more support there is.
A lot of people think that crime is up when we actually see that shootings are down. Subway crime is up. But let's also note that subway crime is up after they committed so many more officers to the subway system. Adding more cops to the subway isn't solving this problem.
Listen, things are going to get better, I promise you. They will. This is not the dark monologue you think it is. But the truth is, we have seen this happen before in deep blue states and cities like New York, where I grew up. Economist Herb Stein once said, whatever can't continue won't. Folks, this can't continue. Rampant crime, inflation, it can't continue. I want to give you an example of how we're at the end of a really bad cycle, and I'm telling you we're about to turn around. I can see it. I can feel it. I lived through it. Let's look for an example. You said history rhymes. Well, here's the rhyme right here. Take Rudy Giuliani's rise to power in the 90s in New York City. I saw it. I was there. I lived it. A lot of conservatives thought he'd never be mayor. They thought it wasn't possible. Was it 8-1, 10-1, Democrat to Republican? The odds were too tightly stacked against him. Well, he ran, and initially, he lost. You know why? Because of the same thing that happened on Tuesday. Things just hadn't gotten bad enough to wake people up. Check out this headline from the New York Times in 1990. The year before, murders hit 1,905 dead human beings in body bags, folks. You think things were bad? They weren't bad enough, apparently, to change. In the 1989 New York City mayoral election, Giuliani ran on a tough-on-crime agenda. And he came this close to upsetting Democrat David Dinkins. I was there. But he didn't. Because you know what? Like Tuesday, things just weren't bad enough. Yet here's what happened 4 years later, for those of you ready to give up. Homicides got even worse, just like they will now. They topped 2,200 body bags in 1990 and 1,927 corpses in 1993. But they were clustered in poor neighborhoods in New York City. The rich elites didn't have to worry about their neighborhoods. They were okay. Sound familiar? It just wasn't bad enough for them yet. Then, when everybody was ready to give up on New York City, Giuliani finally pulled off the unthinkable in deep, deep blue New York and won by a sliver in that rematch. Then he acted on his promises. And, he did something called conservative stuff like law and order and economic sanity. And this crazy thing happened. The city cleaned up. Folks, it was like a miracle, except it wasn't. It was just common sense conservatism. And then the craziest thing happened 4 years later. Rudy Giuliani ran for re-election, and he won by a sliver. Just kidding, he actually won by 17 points. Sounds like what just happened in Florida's landslide gubernatorial election with Ron DeSantis. Results matter, folks. BS is cheap. Results walk. BS is just talk. You see, folks, things had to get bad enough in New York City and now before Democrats blame Democrats for the problems Democrats created. Voters in the red states, they've already figured that out.
We saw freedom in our very way of life and so many other jurisdictions in this country wither on the vine, Florida held the line.
No amount of money was going to convince people that escaped Marxism and socialism that America should embrace Marxism and socialism.
Fight for our families, fight for the people struggling with the opioid addiction problem, fight for the people, the single moms struggling to raise babies.
But in some blue districts and blue states, they haven't figured it out yet. It's just not bad enough. But as the GOP likely embraces its newly gained power, especially in the House of Representatives, there's a lesson that can come from all of this, from Rudy Giuliani and from the Democrats' 2018 midterm victories as well. You better damn well deliver. Remember, BS is cheap talk. Remember the lofty promises Democrats made to voters 2 years into Trump's presidential term?
Right now, who we are as a nation is that we have a crooked path, and it is time to make that crooked path straight.
Our focus, which we decided on early on health care, proved very, very, very beneficial to us because that's the #1 issue facing the American people.
The Democratic Congress will be led with transparency and openness. Raise workers' wages with strong economic growth by rebuilding the infrastructure of America. The American people want peace. They want results.
See, Giuliani and DeSantis delivered, but do those Democrat promises sound like anything we have today? I don't remember them promising record high inflation, surging crime, body bags, fentanyl. If conservative leaders aren't careful here, we could fall into a similar trap with our newfound power. Folks, it's time for Republicans to deliver. Deliver like DeSantis and deliver like Giuliani did. The stump speeches are over. Talky time's over. Cutesy time's done. The one-liners don't cut it anymore. This isn't a time for focus groups. It's time for action. We're giving Republicans another chance now to stop the insanity of the left, but also to reform. Reform our government. We need it. If we've ever needed it, we need it now. If conservatives in Congress don't reform this, none of that stuff matters. It's time to put the money where your mouths are right now. It's time for you to deliver what we, the people, want and voted for.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.